Hello everybody, it's me, Player Negative, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna finish the Kingdom Hearts trilogy, finally! Because 4 isn't gonna come out in 2 years, and eventually, after this video, I can finally talk about the Game Awards and how Harmon Smith is absolutely losing it, and how we got Mega Man 12 before GTA 6. All that aside, this is the first time I don't gotta cover a bunch of crap ton of games that happened before the third game in the series, because one game's a prequel to the entire beginning of the timeline, and the other one just covers context for what happened in the second game. And most of it is stuff we already know. So, yeah, but because of the sake of continuity, I am going to explain Recoded, which is actually pretty straightforward compared to most of the other games. You see, basically, throughout Donald, Goofy, and Sora's adventures, Jiminy Cricket has been documenting everything that's happened and sending this information back to Mickey Mouse. Basically acting like the man on the inside, or someone who works for Mickey Mouse like a right-hand man or a guard. Eventually, Mickey Mouse finds a random cryptic messaging in the journal, and basically Chip and Dale accidentally digitize the journal, creating a completely separate world filled with bugs hiding those cryptic messages. A data version of Sora is created to battle out this matrix, and eventually they find out the crap we already know about Sora being a mix of Roxas, Ventus, and what else is in there at this point. And we also learned that Xehanorts has a new Organization 13. So remember how I said that the other group died? Yeah, that's a big lie, because they're all nobodies. The original people came back from whatever Sora did, so he didn't actually kill any people. I want to make that very clear. Instead, they all return back to the normal state while still retain the memories of the nobodies. Anyways, a new Organization 13 is formed from something else entirely. Instead of being a bunch of random nobodies, Xehanorts conjures together, he instead goes back in time, gives a younger version of himself a going back in time potion to gather other Xehanorts from other sections of the game series to be the new Organization 13. However, they're short a member, so instead, for the last 13th member, they grab Sora, or at least a fraction of Sora. Alright, good. With all that said, I can finally get into Kingdom Hearts 3. To combat this threat, just so you know, the main plan of Mickey Mouse is to train both Riku and Sora to become Keyblade Masters, so they stand a chance against Xehanort. That is the start of the story. So, with that out of the way, let's cover Kingdom Hearts. What? What do you mean there's another filler game before the third game of the series? You mean to tell me there's a game I have to cover because if I don't, the context of the entire series is completely lost? Fine. Whatever. Mickey Mouse, take the wheel. Or stick, or whatever you have on that little steamboat of yours. So apparently I have to explain a game called Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance 3D, which is basically where the same exam in Birth by Sleep called the Mark of Mastery, which is how Keyblade wielders become Keyblade Masters, is taken. Yin Sen, which is the wizard from Fantasia, who is the original person who trained Mickey to become a Keyblade Master, which means Kingdom Hearts is canon to Disney lore, and we no longer have to consider Mickey from Kingdom Hearts as a completely separate person, so there's that. So basically, it goes about like this. Sora and Riku visit a bunch of different Disney worlds, wake up sleeping hearts, and we learn that Organization 13 members are reduced back to their normal somebodies. However, we also learn a bit more context about the new Organization 13 and why all of their names had X in them. You see, Xehanort wanted to keep track of every single organization member, and basically how he did that was changing their names from the normal somebody they were to basically turning it into an anagram and then adding an X. So Roxas is just an anagram for Sora with an X shoved into it. Cool. It's also why the villains are always able to find Sora in the game, because for some reason, because he was a former Organization 13 member, or at least his nobody was, he has an X on his shirt that allows them to find him. How does this work in any context? I don't know. It's either anime bullcrap or Disney magic. What do you think?
Both is good.
So, with that being said, let's get back to the plot. So, Donald, Goofy, and Sora up to their normal shenanigans, going across multiple Disney worlds, when all of a sudden they run into one of those Xehanort variations I mentioned earlier from the time travel shenanigans. And this is young Xehanort, the one that was given the going back in time potion, not to be confused with Ansem or Terranort or any of the other Xehanort variants. We are not getting into that. And this is where we get the explanation for what the Xehanorts were trying to do. You see, the main motivation of Xehanort, what has basically been his prime motivation, is that he wants to control Kingdom Hearts. Which, if you don't know what that was, or if you were not paying attention 2 videos ago, you would know that that's a giant moon where all hearts draw their power from. Good or evil, light or darkness. And basically, the only way to control that is with the Keyblade, or as I keep on preferring it to, because I'm not going to go through this again, the X-Blade. I'm going to call it the X-Blade, and no one's going to tell me otherwise. So basically, to seize the X-Blade after it shattered during Birth by Sleep, before he possessed Terra and sent Aqua plummeting into the Land of Darkness, he basically accidentally got it shattered into 13 shards of darkness and 7 of light. So in Kingdom Hearts 1, his main motivation was to kidnap 7 random Disney Princesses of Hearts, since he already had Organization 13 to fill in the 13 shards of darkness. However, Sora stopped that plan. Then in the second game, they stopped Terranort, or the Xehanort Heartless or Nobody, which basically revived the old Xehanort. And if you're wondering why Xehanort doesn't come back as Terranort, it's because Terranort only has a fraction of his heart, not the whole thing. And he's only one vessel. That and the time travel bull crap I just mentioned to you. Like I said, rules get contradicted by one of 3 things: Disney magic, anime bull crap, or time travel. But also, since Sora basically stopped Organization 13, and I mean the first version of Organization 13, not the newer one with all the Xehanorts, the old Organization 13, he now needs to find 13 versions of himself, and now is going to use the 7 Keyblade Warriors of Light, which are Mickey, Riku, Sora, Kairi, Ventus, Aqua. I think Roxas is in there. I honestly don't know the specific number, and I'm too scared to pull the wiki, so you're just gonna have to accept it. Anyways, back to the story. Xehanort kidnaps Sora because he needs a 13th member for the Darkness of the Shards, and as he's almost possessed by Xehanort, like Terra was when they made Terranort, Riku, Goofy, Donald, and some of the others swoop in and stop him, and an epic fight engages, and they eventually stop it. Xehanort basically does the dramatic bad guy, "You haven't seen the last of me," and takes all of his other clones with him. Then it's revealed that despite all the work Sora did, going through multiple Disney worlds, doing all the requirements for the test, just because he was captured by Xehanort, he didn't pass to become a Keyblade Master, and Riku did. I'm sorry, you mean the person who literally was one of Xehanort's puppets gets the pass, but the guy who almost ended up that way doesn't? Kinda unfair, Mr. Jensen, don't you think? Kinda unfair. But anyways, this is it. This is the final moment where we can finally, after multiple games, after a few mangas and a few spin-off games and a rhythm-based game and a few Game Boy Advance games that were refurbished into newer games of the old titles I mentioned previously so they could be played on a bigger console because no one wanted to bother to buy a handheld, we finally make it to Kingdom Hearts 3. So now it's time. Without further ado, Mickey, roll the tape. So let it begin. So, Hearts 3. So last we saw Sora that he failed, so he has to learn the power of waking, which will allow him to become a Keyblade wielder and control all the different nobodies and heartless within his body, because by the will of all that was good, how many people does he have inside of him? Not like that. What I mean is like, okay, so as a refresher for those who didn't pay attention to Kingdom Hearts 2, when Sora stabbed himself, he created like 2 other clones of himself and his friend. And then Organization 13 said, screw it, let's create a hybrid. Which led to Roxas, Naminé, and Xion, which the letters in her name doesn't even pronounce the word Xion, so I don't even know how you even spell that properly. Anyway, Sora's on a journey to learn the power of waking in order to keep them in check or find a way to properly balance the multiple personalities within his body. So anyways, like most Kingdom Hearts games, the story carries on with Sora going through multiple Disney worlds, learning valuable lessons about how he should proceed through his journey from the other Disney characters. The only thing people do not like about this game is the unbalanced mechs in the Toy Story levels, but more importantly, the Frozen level. The Frozen level that was absolutely garbage. I do not understand why it sucks so badly. Just kidding, I do. Game Theory made a whole video about it. If you want to watch that video, I would definitely recommend you do. I'm going to leave a link down in the description for it. Go watch it. It'll be a nice breather, and you don't need to know any complex lore to understand that theory. Dang it, I miss Matt Pat. I'm so old, aren't I? Anyways, Disney World stuff aside, let's get to the main plot. What happens after traveling through those arbitrary Disney worlds with boss fights that are actually cool, and cool Keyblades, attacks, abilities, and weapons that you gain later along the way, including a newer version of the dry form called the Rage form, which is basically Sora with all the power of his darkness harnessed into a much more controlled form than what he had in Kingdom Hearts 2 and 1. So, back to the plot, we get introduced to the newer members of Organization 13. And while a good majority of them are just different versions of Xemnas due to time travel, some of them are actual characters we know, and one in particular we don't know. Anyways, let me list some of them up. Well, we got an evil replica version of Riku from Chain of Memories. We got Vanitas, which, if you don't know who Vanitas is, he's basically a evil Sora copy, which, to summarize, when Roxas basically was thrown into Sora's heart, for some reason that connection created Vanitas as a dark version of Sora. You're just gonna have to roll with it. And it also brought back a few other Organization 13 members who barely matter anything, but they're there anyways. Also, I forgot to mention, in the other game, it wasn't Donald and Mickey who saved Sora, it was actually Axel, because he actually cares about Roxas and the others, and also because of Sora is important, because he's one of the 7 light wielders of Heart. Yeah. So, Sora's on a journey to find the power of waking, like I said before, but this time he literally has no idea how to get the other hearts in him out. So, a bunch of his random friends from Destiny Island, Roxas' friends from Destiny Island, tell him about Ansem's computer and that basically there should be a copy of his body, like a computer model in Blender they could use. He goes in there, doesn't know the password, and is locked out. Meanwhile, King Mickey, yes, I'm going to be referring to him as King Mickey because that's how the game refers to him, and Roxas, the real Roxas, not the replica part of Organization 13, let's just get to, bear with me there, are so bad at rescuing Aqua that she gets nearly corrupted by the darkness in the space. However, Mickey Mouse shows up and they convince him to start they basically find out for some unknown reason that Sora just ends up through a portal, and they create a Keyblade made from both of their hearts, which a few people love to jokingly call, because the internet does what the internet does, the Keyblade. Of course, it's actually called the Twilight Key. I might be wrong about that. Let me look at my notes, which basically gets rid of the darkness, and they all head to Castle Oblivion. Again, why does this castle exist? Why does this single one location exist? Because I'll tell you why. Because this is where Roxas' body has been lying down for the entirety of the series. You mean to tell me that this one guy's corpse, despite the fact he's not even dead, but just incapacitated because his soul is separated from his body, has been laying in the same spot for 10 years and it hasn't aged a day? I mean, it kind of makes sense. Sora being in cryostasis is the only reason why he's actually aged by 2 years, despite the game having a large amount of time than that. So I'm assuming since they're connected, it just preserved his age as well. Basically, Aqua turns the Castle Oblivion back to the original castle that it was before. Sora tries to wake up Ventus with the power of waking, but fails, and then Vanitas shows up, tries attacking them. Then Sora eventually learns the power of waking from his entire Disney journey and all the bullcrap he learned along the way, and revives Ventus, and Ventus basically defeats Vanitas. Eventually, we later learn that 2 other members of Organization 13 are actually part of a double agent, decide to betray Xehanort, and they manage to find a replica body for Roxas to inhabit so he doesn't have to rely on Sora as a vessel or a body to move around and function as a normal person. We also learn that Ansem the Wise is actually trying to help with the plot instead of just being a random guy who let his apprentice literally cause massive amounts of worldwide damage. Good for him. Eventually, they all make it back to Ventus's area. Not Venitus. What is the name of the wizard? Right, the wizard Ventus. Or Venitus. Honestly, I don't know the wizard's name anymore. Basically, all 7 warriors of Light of Hearts are assembled. Sora, Riku, Aqua, Mickey, Roxas, and Kairi. Sorry, Axel and Kairi. Roxas isn't going to show up yet. Emphasis on the yet. Then Yensin, which is a wizard's name I just remembered. I know what you're thinking for a second. If you assemble the 7 Warriors of Light and the 13 of Dark, won't this just give Xehanort what he wants? Now, I hear you. That makes a lot of sense. However, he immediately deflects this question by literally saying that Xehanort would just kidnap the same Disney princesses from 4 or 5 other games ago, because this series doesn't make any sense, and because time travel is something he has access to. Which, valid point. So the 7 all gathered around in the Keyblade graveyard where the original Keyblade Wars started. There's a whole horde of Heartless, and at first the entire group manages to fend them off without any trouble, no problem whatsoever. Then, crap starts to hit the fan when Terranort, the variant where Terra was fused with Xehanort, kills all of them, or in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, sends them to the Shadow Realm, or in this case, the World of Waking, and Sora has to go around reassembling the parts of his body and his memories that are lost. After that, they all eventually come back to life, and they manage to fight back against them when another horde of soldiers come attacking. This time, however, they're able to call on the power of every Keyblade in the graveyard, thanks to the power of the main character of Union Cross, who does not matter to the plot whatsoever. I do not want to hear any person in the comment asking about Union Cross. I do not care about the game. It is barely relevant. I'm already annoyed by having to memorize this stuff and not write it down. Just give me a break. Then, Xemnas, which is the name of the wizard, basically parts the crowd or the soldiers of Heartless, and after years of waiting, the final battle commenced. The 13 of Darkness and the 7 of Light are finally gathered here to fight after years of waiting, because apparently this game took years in between development due to bullcrap from Disney and due to the fact that Square Enix tries to refine their work, which, by the way, is starting to become a trend with Kingdom Hearts 4, which I'm not even going to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole when it comes out. Do not expect me, because I can assure you the worlds in that game are just going to be all the bad live action Disney remakes. So you think this is where the fight finally starts? Well, no, because Xehanort pulls the bullcrap move of gotcha and summons a giant maze. Sora works through the maze, destroying most of the members one by one, and Replica Riku is, well, dealt with, so to speak. Then it's revealed that the last hooded figure is Shion, the third Sora nobody that Organization 13 creates a failsafe. They now have control over again, but Ansem the Wise basically manages to find the replica from the computer from before during Recoded and recreates Roxas' body, so he joins the fight and is ready to commence battle. Now, during this entire fight with all these different characters, Xehanort is gaining a dark shard as Sora defeats each member. Sora realizes this and quickly decides to stop fighting. However, Xehanort threatens to kill Kairi, and when he does, Sora goes into a panic and kills the other Xehanorts, which eventually creates the X-Blade. I am not calling it the Keyblade because we need a name to distinguish the two, because it's hard to tell them apart. I mean, it's the most laziest design I've ever seen. It looks like someone just slapped Sora's Keyblade model and made 2 of them, shoved them together, added a bunch of crystal effects, and called it a day. Anyways, back to the fight. Xehanort uses the Keyblade to summon Kingdom Hearts and make it all black and stuff, like he was planning to. However, Mickey Mouse pauses time and explains that Xehanort's body is a portal to another world where you can properly defeat him. So Goofy, Donald, and Sora all rush in there, and they all have a massive fight. They manage to destroy him, and then the rest of the Masters show up. And then Aqua, Terra, and Ventus' original Master, as a ghost, shows up and basically defeats Xehanort. All of them celebrate, going off their own separate ways, except there's one thing. Kairi was killed, so Sora has to bring her back to life at one cost. Being lost forever. So he does it, and that's what leads to Kingdom Hearts 4. Where Sora wakes up in some random apartment because whatever, apparently that's a thing. So it's finally over. I'm finally done. I'm finally free. Yes! Yes! What, you want me to go over the leaks? No, I'm not doing that. I'm done, alright? I went through every game. I explained things down to the simplest aspects. I explained details that no one should even care about. I am not going through this again. I'm done. Simple and clean. Pun intended, reference amended. I'm Player Negative, and I will see you later.